React will reuse components and give you access to the previous data as well as the current value. With this ability, we can actually animate from the previous value to the new value without much effort. Let's convert our current number range into a reusable component. We'll set up a component here that we'll call class tick, and we'll extend component, and we'll just need a render function in here. Now for this render function, we'll copy the contents of a single range. So this will wrap all of our ranges, and this will then be the component, which will be our transform style that will rotate, as well as the numbers that are inside of it. So we'll copy this, and we'll return that information. Now we remove this all from the render function so we can see that nothing is rendering over here, but now we need to pass in the information as props. So we will render inside of our container here a single tick. Rather than doing this transform here, we'll pass down a value. So we'll say value equals 0. We'll additionally pass down the height. And that way we can derive everything that we need inside of the tick component. So we'll take this transform style and place it into our tick component. And this get position, this was the value that we were looking up. So now we'll look up this.props.value, and we no longer have access to the height as a variable. We need to access it on props. So we'll say this.props.height. And now we have our 0 back and our component is encapsulated. So now that we have a reusable component, we can render as many of these as we would like. The first thing we need to do is change how a wrapping container works. The default in React Native is flex direction column. However, we want our numbers to lay out in a row. So let's replace this hidden class with a thing called row, and then we'll additionally add flex direction row to that class. Now when we render multiples of these, say 1, change this to 9, we have 3 that are rendering. Now you'll see some oddities here where this is closer to the 0 than the 9. We can combat this with adding text align center, but this is happening because we need to wrap everything in a view and adjust this rather than having numbers next to each other. But this is something that we just have to live with. Now to show off that these are actually getting reused, we're going to come up to our tick and add a component did update lifecycle method. So when this component is updated and the instance is reused, this function will run. We'll then just console log the previous value, be previous props.value, and the current value, which will be this.props.value. But we need to actually write some code so that this will actually run and this component will be reused. And in order to do that, we'll need some state. So on our state, we'll set up a value 1 of 0, value 2 of 1, and value 3 of 9, just to match what we currently have. We can then pass those into our ticks. So say this.state.value1, this.state.value2, and this.state.value3, and we have back to where we're at. In the component did mount lifecycle method of our app, we'll simply set up a set interval for 1 second, and this will be called every 1 second, and we'll just do a set state. We'll change our value 1 to get random from 0 to 9. We'll do our value 2 of the same, and our value 3 the same as well. So now when I save this, we can see that our numbers will start to change. And to prove that they are actually updating correctly, we can take a look at Expo and see that we are actually executing the lifecycle methods as we expected to. So this will allow us to execute animations inside of our component update whenever the value changes.